mountains rise and fall. Seasons come and go. Father, through it all, one thing that I know, I can trust in you. People let you down, and life is filled with pain. Falling to the ground, on my knees to say, I can trust in you. Oh, He's my rock, on a solid rock I'll stand. He's my rock, on a solid rock I'll stand. You were faithful in the storm. I was never left alone. Oh, no, 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 no. So when every mountain high, in every valley low, I will trust in you. Yeah, yeah. Say He's my rock. He's my rock. On the solid rock I stand. I stand. Oh, say that He's my rock. He's my rock. On this solid rock I stand. I stand. When the stormy wind blows, I know where I will go. In the sun or the rain, I will call on your name. Come on. When the stormy winds blow, I know where I will go. In the sun or the rain, I will call on your name. I will hold on to. God, I'm standing on you. Hey, He's mine. On this solid rock I stand. I know I can lean on. I know I can trust in. Hey, He's my rock. You're the King of Kings. You're the Lord of Lords. You're the great I am. Yeah, yeah. We know who we can call on. We know who we can trust in. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. Yeah, my solid rock safe. He's my rock, on the solid I stand. I stand. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. On Christ side rock I stand. All of the ground sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand. Yeah.
God bless you. Hello, everybody. This is Neil Justin, Associate Pastor here at Love of Jesus World Outreach Ministries. We're here at 385 Broadway in Paterson, New Jersey, and I'm so excited to be able to come with you today. Apostle Cassius Farrell, who is the leader of this vibrant ministry, has tasked me with the assignment of bringing the word to you today, and I'm so grateful to be able to do so. And listen, anytime you have an assignment, it's a blessing. So I'm actually blessed to be able to do that, to share with you today. We also have a satellite ministry in the Philippines. Shout out to all of you in Cavite, Tres Matres, Cavite, in the Philippines with Pastor Jonathan Chua, and also in Trinidad and Tobago, 11 Yard Street in Chaguanas. Shout out to my Trini family as well. It's so great to be able to share this word with you today. And just to build your faith, just to encourage you, I have a few minutes, so let's get right into it. I wanted to encourage many of us who's kind of been feeling wearied, or with all that has been transpiring over the last few months, it really has taken a toll on a lot of us, and I just felt the leading of God to really encourage you with something that I think will bless you. I'm reading from Isaiah chapter 40, and I'll start at verse 12. And just before I start reading through this, and we're going to read and just discuss this real quick in the next few minutes, but I want to kind of give a intro for this. This is what theologians call an anthropomorphic expression. So basically what that means, I know it's a pretty big word, but what that means is God is using human language or human terms in order to describe the awesomeness of who he is. And he is reminding Israel through these verses, he's reminding Israel who he is, in order to encourage them, because they were in a state where they were in captivity. And so he was going to encourage them. So just as Israel was going through their issues, we go through it as well. We have this pandemic that's happening now. Many of us are worried about the economy and about our jobs, etc. Many of us are going through things that's not even covered by the medium, by the news media. It may be something that's personal, but we're all going through things nowadays. So I just wanted to encourage you with this. Here's how God starts to describe himself. First, verse number 12. It says, "Who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out heaven with a span, and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance?" Basically, God is saying, listen, who is it that knows in just the palm of his hands, in the hollow of his hands, he's measured all the oceans. Think of the Pacific Ocean, the world's largest body of water. Then you add the Atlantic Ocean on top of that. Then you add the Arctic Ocean, and then you add the Indian Ocean on that. And then you add the seas like the Mediterranean Sea, the Caribbean Sea, the Caspian Sea, the Aegean Sea, then you add all the rivers like the Mississippi River and the Missouri River and the Colorado River, and all these waters put together. God says it's right here in the hollow of his hands. Imagine all that. Okay, and then he says, comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure. In other words, every single grain of dust or every single grain of sand, God knows the exact amount of them that exists in the earth. And he says, and weighed the mountains in scales. He knows the weight of every mountain from Mount Everest, which we think is the tallest. It's just the tallest on land, but the actual tallest, I believe, is Mauna Loa. But he weighed all of those. He knows the weight of all of them put together, and the hills in a balance. Let's continue. He says, "Who hath directed the Spirit of the Lord, or being his counselor hath taught him?" In other words, who is God's instructor? God is saying, I have no instructor. Not only does he say he knows everything, and he's saying that he's measured everything. There's nothing that escapes his knowledge or his wisdom. He's saying that he has no instructor. No one is his counselor. No one has directed the Spirit of the Lord. Verse 14, with whom took he counsel, and who instructed him, and taught him in the path of judgment, and taught him knowledge, and showed him the way of understanding. He continues, behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he take up the isles as a very little thing. Isles here talking about the islands. Every island that you see is like everything seems so insignificant. Not in terms of purpose or in terms of value, but in terms of size. God is saying, I am so big that all of these things compared to me is so small. Continue. He says, and Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beast thereof sufficient for a burnt offering. This is verse 16. What does that mean? That means then that if you think that your little offering or your gift or your whether it's burning of the trees or burning of sage, some people want to start burning sage and do all kind of stuff to think that that could appease God. God says all of Lebanon is not sufficient, is not enough just to appease me. That's the amazing thing about God's grace. God is saying to us that compared to anything that we can give him or bring to him, he is so big and so awesome. But because he's so mindful of us, the offerings that we give him in terms of showing honor because of our heart that is connected to him, that is the thing that he enjoys. He says, all nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity. To whom then will ye liken God? Or what likeness would he compare to him? Okay, so now he's going into people making all these images. In verse number 19, he says, the workman melteth a graven image, and the goldsmith spreadeth it over with gold and casted silver chains. So he's doing all these different statues and all that stuff, and they decorate it all nice and stuff to try to say that this is the likeness of God. And then he says, he that is so poor, verse 20, that he have no oblation, chooseth a tree that will not rot. So he can't afford the gold stuff, so he gets a good piece of wood, and then seeks a cunning workman to prepare a graven image so that it shall not be moved. But then now he starts to ask a question. Now, anytime God asks a question, it does not mean that he doesn't know the answer to, but what he's doing is he's drawing your attention to something so that he can impart knowledge to you. Have ye not known, verse 21, have ye not heard, have it not been told you from the beginning, have ye not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers. So we have over 7 billion people in the earth. All of that put together is small in the eyes of God. That's how big God is. You see what he's saying? Continue. And he says that stretch out the heavens as a curtain and spread them out as a tent to dwell in. So when you think of the expanse of the universe, and scientists are saying that the universe is continuously expanding and it's God is saying, I stretch all that out like a curtain. Just as you put up a curtain on your by your window in the house or wherever, God's saying that's how I stretched out the universe. I spread as a curtain. He continues on. Verse 23, that bringeth the princes to nothing. He maketh the judges. He maketh the judges of the earth as vanity. He says, yea, they shall not be planted, yea, they shall not be sown, yea, their stock shall not take root in the earth, and he shall also blow upon them, and they shall wither, and the whirlwind shall take them away as stubble. He's saying all the people who are considered judges or people who are positions of honor and stuff, he said God can simply blow on all that, and all their accomplishments, all their judgments, all the things that he says, all that could be as nothing. It would go away. He says, well, then who then will he liken me? So first he talks about likeness in terms of an image, whether it's a statue or something that you make. Then he talks about the judges, or maybe you can compare God to the judges, but he says, well, the judges are like nothing. So he continue then. So who then will he like me? Or shall I be equal, saith the Holy One? Verse 26, lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out their hosts by number. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might, for he is strong in power, not one faileth. So we know that this galaxy alone has billions of stars and planets. That's just the Milky Way galaxy. We have billions of galaxies in the universe. And God says he knows every one of them. He numbered every one of them. He knows all their names. You imagine how awesome God is? He's continuing on. Let's say, and then he says, not one failing. So he says he's strong in power. Not one of them fail unless he allows it. No star, no planet. Nothing will happen unless God either allows it or he sanctions it. It doesn't happen without his knowledge. That's how awesome God is. Now, why is all of this happening? Because after when Israel is going through their captivity, they're thinking that God has forgotten about them. You are going through what you are going through right now. You're wondering, man, maybe God forgot about me. Maybe God is not really out to bless me. Or maybe the things that God has said over my life is not going to happen anymore. Maybe I should go to my own ways and try to just live my life, etc. You know, I was sharing before about how we need to have our faith by default, meaning that our faith is our default thing, our base or our foundation, and that life is coming at us to shake our faith. So we see all these things bombarding our minds and we thinking then that God doesn't care. Here's the question God asked Jacob. He says, why sayest thou, O Jacob, verse 27, and speakest, O Israel, my way is hid from the Lord and my judgment is passed over from my God. In other words, Jacob, why are you saying that God doesn't care? Why are you saying that what's happening to me, God is not seeing and he's not noticing? Verse 28, hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding. In other words, God is always awake. So that means you can go to rest. You don't have to stress over what you're going through, because what you're going through, God is already making provisions for it. God is already making the way for it. God is already making He already had the plans laid out for your life, that you will come out and not just come out of it as a survivor, but come out of it victorious. He says there's no searching of his understanding. Watch verse 29. He giveth power to the faint. So if you're feeling faint, you can just receive power from God. He says or strength from God. He says, and to them that have no might, he increaseth strength. So there's many of us who are at the point where we're about to quit, about to give up, about to just throw in the towel. And he says God will increase you with might or with strength. He says even the youth shall faint and be weary. So even if you're young and you have vitality and you have all this energy, eventually that energy can run out if you just depend on your own self. He says, and the young men shall utterly fall. But verse 31, this is the last verse in this chapter. But they that wait, or they that rest, or they that rely on, or they that put their hope or their confidence in the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. Eagles are huge birds, and when they fly, they just mount up. They can flap just maybe once or twice, but once they hit that thermal, they just start to soar, and they stay soaring, and they just have to hold their wings out. And those are people who wait on God, because the thermal or the heat from the earth, as well as the wind coming up, it undergirds the wings, and they just stay afloat. They just fly. They just soar. He says they shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. You think of people like those who run the marathon. You know, I have this thing where I try to run a mile a day every day. If I go 2 miles, maybe I'm okay. If I try to do 3 miles, now you're pushing it. And if I try to go beyond that, now it really does a number on my legs. But imagine trying to run not just a marathon, but running forever, continuing to run, and you don't get tired, because your strength or your reliance is on the one that renews your strength, right? And they shall walk and not faint. This is my encouragement to you. Very simple word, but God is describing the awesomeness of who he is, to let you know that in spite of how big he is, he's concerned about even the smallest need that you might have. He's concerned about everything about you. And so all you have to do is to put your confidence, your hope, and your trust in him. This is my encouragement to you today. Very simple encouragement to build your faith, that if you would wait, or if you would rely on, or if you would put your trust or your confidence in God, your strength will be renewed and you'll be able to go forward. People wonder, well, how you get all that stamina? I waited on God. How did you be able to make it and push through all that you're going through? I waited on God. How did you get all the things that God said he was going to give it to you, and I didn't see it happening. It looked impossible. How did you get all that? I waited on God. How did you make it when everyone else failed and everyone else suffered and everyone else gave up and everyone else quit and everyone else either perished or something happened to how is it that you made it? I waited on God. That's why the Lord said to fear not, because he is with us. He's with you. Now, if you don't know Jesus, then maybe he's not with you. You need him with you. You need him in your life. Say this quick prayer. Just say, dear Jesus, I need you in my life. I know you died for me. You died for my sins. I invite you into my life now, and help me, give me the grace to serve you for the rest of my life. Say that simple prayer and mean it from your heart, and you become part of the family of God, and you've invited God to be with you. He says he stands at the door and knocks. So he's outside knocking if you have never prayed that prayer before. But if you open the door and invite him in, he'll come in with you. And all that you need in terms of for your life and for your future, that you have that supply with you. Well, my time is up. I'm going to end right now. I really, really enjoyed these few minutes, and then even this word here, because this encouraged me just as I'm sure it's encouraged you. God is an awesome God. Somebody said this, and this so blessed me. Just last piece of nugget. If we refuse to acknowledge God as the awesome God, then he will just be some God. We don't want God to be just some God. No, we want him to be awesome God in our lives. I'm done. I'll talk to you again. We'll see you soon. God bless you.